their error, not just with ride height devices, but with their curing of that long-standing understeer issue. The Ducati really now does not have any kind of obvious weakness, does it? As Marc Marquez now leads this session, the first man in the 157s of the morning. 157.277 from the man who's 3 times here in Motegi has been crowned MotoGP World Champion.
He also takes the popular route through turn 3 and runs slightly wide there on the brakes. John Zarco also going off track. So quite a few riders struggling to get their bikes stopped in these heavy braking zones with the amount of water that's out there on track. Zarco's also down there at turns 3 and 4. Marc Marquez did have a little bit of pain in his shoulder, he said yesterday, after that busy day out on track. Of course, a very long session yesterday, 75 minutes of free practice yesterday in one continuous session. Marc Marquez coming in at the end and having a little bit of ice on his shoulder. As we now look at what happened to Johan Zarco, we've seen this particular route through turn 3 quite a lot so far this morning. Zarco following Aleix Espargaro's wheel tracks through the gravel.
They're going to need a big rake, aren't they, to smooth out that gravel trap there. They're going to need some of those rakes from the Augusta course over in America. Now that Marquez, a little bit of aquaplaning there, wasn't there, as he got on the gas coming out of turn number 2.
He also ran on
the brakes into turn number 3. He was a little bit more committed than some of the others. Talk about exceeding expectations. He thought he'd be about 2 or 3 seconds on the pace yesterday. Heavily bandaged right hand, strapped as well. He's lost, listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, he's lost 60% of the tendon in his little finger on his right hand, 20% of the tendon on... He's lost 60% of the tendon in his little finger on his right hand, 20% of the tendon on the fourth finger. It all got trapped into the bike, didn't it, as he slid down the circuit for a good 50 metres towards a reverse corkscrew in Aragon. The good news for Nakagami, it was a clean injury, no skin graft required, but I still can't fathom how on earth he was able to string those laps together yesterday. 12th place. Of course, the full race distance, if it is dry tomorrow, it looks like it will be, thankfully for the fans, 24 laps. That's going to be a tough, bruising job for Nakagami, but yesterday he was absolutely sensational.
Yeah, he didn't think when he spoke to us on Thursday whether he'd be able to do more than a few laps. He said he was going to go out in free practice 1, see how it felt early on, and then make a decision from there. He's clearly made the decision to continue through the weekend, and he has been declared fit. It must be such a huge motivation for him to try and do the best he can for his home crowd. Of course, this is the first Japanese Grand Prix for 3 years, the first opportunity for Taka Nakagami since 2019 to ride in front of his home crowd. And just outside our commentary box window here, as we look outside across the main straight to the grandstands opposite us, there's some huge Taka banners outside of our window here, and number 30's being brandished, so he's got no lack of support around here, Taka Nakagami, and they'll be doing their best to try and push him through the pain barrier today and tomorrow.
Here's a super slow motion replay of Zarco coming through turn number 12. Top man in this session as it stands right now, well, briefly, it was Miguel Oliveira, the 156.884. The pace is hotting up, though, here in these very wet conditions in Motegi. This man's teammate, Jorge Martin, now leads away with the 156.672. We should talk about Alex Marquez as well, another rider perhaps not too upset to see wet conditions here today. The LCR Honda team talk about walking wounded. Alex Marquez had a horrible crash, didn't he, in the walk session 6 days ago in Aragon. He said in Aragon he only decided to race an hour before the Grand Prix started. The main problem for him, damage to his left hand. He said yesterday as well, not comfortable on the bike at all, struggling in the heavy braking zones. Nakagami said it's the long, hard braking zones here in Motegi which he found the most problematic. Turns 5, turns 10 and turn 11 at the end of that downhill straight.
Yeah, it's going to be a real physical challenge for both of the LCR Honda riders tomorrow. Aleix Espargaro has decided to test out the conditions one more time as we hear from, or we take a look at Massimo Rivola. Spoke to him on Thursday, of course. He perhaps did fear that this might be the circuit in the final 5 that might not suit them so much straight line heavy braking, which isn't necessarily the Aprilia's strength. We saw a good example of that back at the Austrian Grand Prix in August, but Aleix Espargaro has had some relative success around here in the past. He was 4th in the 2016 race here when he was riding, of course, for the factory Suzuki team. So Aleix Espargaro has some track record around here, so don't rule him out whatsoever. Massimo Ravolo also sending a little bit of a pointed message to Ducati when he spoke to me on Thursday regarding the team orders debate that really is dominating MotoGP at the moment, saying that he hopes that every team does their own race. Perhaps a little message to the fact that Ducati both have Pecco Bagnaia and Rossini's and Enea Bastianini perhaps involved in this World Championship race.
Well, there was briefly the hero of day one here in Motegi, wasn't it? The home hero, Taka Nakagami, sporting that beautiful special home race helmet, livery and paint scheme. Nod to the autumnal trees that we get now around in this part of the world. As we approach October time, a key phase of the season. Oh, Marquez lighting up the rear tyre again. This is out of the second corner. We saw this a few laps ago. On the gas, just up the third gear. Yeah, he didn't quite. He was just about to click fourth there, was he, Marquez? And then the big slide on some standing water coming out of turn 3. Barely rolled out of it at all, did he? As the beast, and Enea Bastianini was turn 3. Barely rolled out of it at all, did he? As the beast, and Enea Bastianini was briefly top because this man has just taken over again, showing once again what great wet weather skills he's got. Miguel Oliveira, he now finds a 156.313, nearly a tenth and a half clear of Bastianini. He also has that little bit of a spin up on the rear tyre coming out of turn 2.
Yeah, Jorge Martin currently sits in third at the moment. He crashed out of our only wet race early this season, of course, on the standing water into turn 1. In Mandalika, Quartararo fourth. Cal Crutchlow is up in fifth, of course. He's certainly seen his fair share of wet weather in his MotoGP career. Very, very strong yesterday was Cal Crutchlow, just under 7/10 of a second away from Jack Miller's blockbuster lap, which of course he had the front row seat of in free practice 1. Crutchlow, the third of the Yamahas yesterday. It looked at one stage as if they were going to get perhaps 2 or more Yamahas into the top 10 as Morbidelli showed improved pace, but of course the time stumbled towards the end of the session. But still an impressive return so far, both last weekend and here for Cal Crutchlow.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of a fight in the old warhorse, isn't there? 36 years of age, Cal Crutchlow. His competitive streak, his competitive edge, definitely back at Hanson, wasn't it, yesterday? He said 6/10 of a second a couple of years ago, he'd have been second, just off first place, but now 17th. That's how competitive it is in MotoGP these days. It was actually pretty frustrating not to be in that top 10. He said when he went out on that second soft mixing rear tyre, it just didn't have the grip, particularly coming out the corners. That was the big difference between him and Jack Miller, the Buzz and Buddies. Their bromance well and truly back on, isn't it? Miller and Crutchlow. In fact, Miller actually, I think it was a pre-session plan. He said, "Hey Cal, yeah, get behind me, mate. I'll happily tow you around." Cal said he sat sort of half a second behind Jack, so he wasn't disturbing him. But the Ducati clearly had unbelievable acceleration with the rear ride-out device. When you think coming out of turn 2, coming out of turn 4, out of turn 10, that's where the Ducati really comes into its own. Marc Marquez then excelling in these wet conditions here at around 16, the Motor Grand Prix of Japan. He's got down to a 155.232, and that has moved the goalpost in this very wet session. He's nearly a full second clear now of Enea Bastianini, despite a couple of big scares on the throttle coming out of turn 2 on the standing water. At the moment, this man's standing proud at the top of the timesheets.
Well, I'm sure he'll be slightly careful to manage his physical condition here, Marc Marquez, but in terms of this session and in terms of the World Championship, of course, Marc Marquez has got absolutely nothing to lose here this weekend or in the remaining 4 Grand Prix that follow this one. He's just out there to do the best job he can. Of course, an absolutely blockbuster start to the Aragon Grand Prix before it all went south, of course, with those 2 high-profile blockbuster start to the Aragon Grand Prix before it all went south, of course, with those 2 high-profile incidents with Quartararo and then Taka Nakagami. His first corner was absolutely sensational as he just steamed around the outside of around 4 or 5 riders into turn 1 at Motorland Aragon. And as far as it's seeing in this session with his pacing these wet conditions, Marc Marquez could have his eyes on potentially returning Honda to pole position in his own Grand Prix. Very early days, of course, to say that. Of course, we don't know what the weather conditions are going to be in qualifying later on. But as I mentioned, Marc Marquez will go into this afternoon's session with absolutely nothing to lose. And we know at this stage, unlike last weekend, he's going to be in Q2.
And in very similar conditions, who can forget here, 5 years ago, 2017, one of several last lap runners he had throughout his career with Andrea Dovizioso, of course, was then on the factory Ducati. Dovi got the better of Marquez coming out of the victory corner. That was one of their classic battles as they fought for the world title in 2017 in very, very similar conditions. Aleix Espargaro then comes under the tunnel here through turns 12 and 13. This is the victory corner. Aleix Espargaro, he's already had a couple of run-offs in that tricky braking zone on that standing water. Going into turn 3. Aleix Espargaro over the line, he comes now, 22nd. It's not been a good morning so far for the factory of Brilliers. Aleix Espargaro down in 22nd. Maverick Vinales at the moment, he's only done 4 laps in this session on the RSGP Vinales, but he's nowhere, he's a long, long way off. His best work so far, very disappointing, 2:01.645. That's got Vinales at the thick end of 6.5 seconds away from Marc Marquez in top spot. So the Aprilis at the moment not really gelling with these tricky conditions in Motegi.
No, nor the Suzukis at the moment. Alex Rins and Takuya Tsuda down in 23rd and 24th at the moment in this session. Of course, we saw a brand new aero on the factory Suzuki of Alex Rins yesterday, which he debuted for the first time, although he had to cut a deal with his Suzuki team to be given the opportunity to run them. Of course, we can't see at this stage whether they are still on that GSX-RR of Alex Rins, but at the moment, both he and Takuya Tsuda down at the bottom of the timing sheets.
Well, let's say good morning on this very wet start to Saturday's action here in Motegi. Simon Crapar, who's down in pit lane now with Michelin Motorsport manager Piero Taramasso.
I am. First of all, the people that were looking forward to my chat, the start of FP3, as usual with Alberto Puig. I'm sorry it didn't happen. There was some misunderstanding with the PR guys, and because of the rain, everyone was at the back of the garage. I missed the slot. Now, I do enjoy that one. It's like a box of chocolates, like Forrest would say, because you never know what you're going to get, but you do know what you're going to get with Piero Taramasso. Piero, can you talk us through? It's you're not going to get the usual info today. The wet. Did you get enough info yesterday on the slick tyres for the race tomorrow, and what are the riders up to today in the wet?
Yes, yesterday we had the chance to run in dry condition. Yeah, the session was positive. We try all 3 fronts specification. We try also the 3 rears because we knew that they will be wet, so we try to anticipate, and we have the idea is quite clear. The best solution for dry will be medium or hard front, and for the rear they will be the soft on the medium. So both specification they looks raceable. The grip is there, this is good. Also the consistency and tire consumption, it doesn't look an issue. So good info from yesterday on dry, and today we will have some info also about wet. So far they try everybody's with the soft on the rear because it's giving you more grip, better warm up. Here it's quite slippery, this track, so also there is a lot of water. When you have standing water, the soft is better. When you have less water or mixed condition, the medium is the best solution. So we will try both, so soft and medium front, soft and medium rear, and I'm sure tonight we will have a clear idea also about wet, so we are ready for tomorrow.
I got the impression you were thinking medium front. Is that because of stability braking, or?
Yes, medium front is for stability under braking. Here is is a stop and go track. You have some heavy braking, and with the medium compound it gives you more support, better stability, less movement in general.
Piero, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks Simon, thanks to Piero Taramasso. Let's hope Si's back to his regular appointments. FP3 Saturday mornings, always an interview you'd never like to miss, is it? Alberto Puig. We'll try again next weekend. Big scare, nearly washing out the front 10 on the standing water in the braking zone for turn 1. He came over the line 15th in Indonesia. He's having a bit of a trouble start to life on track in wet conditioning in Motegi as well, Bagnaia. The man who's had 5 consecutive podiums, 4 successive wins, and a narrow second to Bastianini 6 days ago in Aragon. Bagnaia at the moment down in 21st place, nearly 3 seconds away from Marquez. With the Aleix Espargaro 23rd as well, you just wonder whether our main title protagonists have just calculated that risk over reward ratio and just thought, well, we know the race, or it looks like the race will be dry tomorrow. It looks like the rain worsening as well down in pit lane as well. It makes no sense for the title contenders to be really pushing and taking big risks in these tricky conditions when it looks like tomorrow's 24-lap Motul Grand Prix of Japan will be run in full dry condition. Although in this part of the world, you never can tell. This circuit, of course, cut into the mountainous region of the northern Kanto district. 25 years since this place opened, this magnificent all-purpose motorsport facility. It was, of course, known as the Twin Ring Mategi to celebrate its 25th anniversary. That was the reason why it has been changed this year to the Mobility Resort Mategi.
We're going to look at the championship challenges then through the victory corner. That's why I say that today could potentially be an opportunity for Fabio Quartararo, because of course the root of his problems really are qualifying sessions and his ability to get it on the front row of the grid and perhaps lead races from the front. That's genuinely how he wins his races, by taking the front from the start and then leading for the entire duration. I remember speaking to Pecco Bagnaia, I think it was in Austria, when we were concerned that we could have some wet weather around on the Saturday for qualifying, and asked him the question, what do you think about This was very nice of him. He was like, he wants no part of a wet weather qualifying. He was desperate for it to be dry, particularly because, of course, that Ducati package is so good in the dry nowadays. So perhaps do get the feeling that if we do have wet conditions for qualifying, it could potentially play into the hands of Fabio Quartararo if you're looking exclusively at the three World Championship contenders, with Bagnaia and Aleix Espargaro clearly taking it a little bit cautious in this session. Quartararo, we've already seen pushing the boat out a little bit more. He's currently 7th in this session.
Some fantastic super slow motion shots of the best riders in the world tackling these tough conditions here in Mategi. Great work by production crew. Maverick Vinales then comes over the line. He started to find his rhythm in this session. Our last full wet Q2 actually was at the European Grand Prix in Valencia back in 2020. We had damp conditions in Mugello and Portimao this year, and all the best lap times were set on slick tyres. Now the yellow flags are out in the first sector. It's Brad Binder on the KTM C16 who's gone off at turn number 3. It's perfectly okay. Not an easy task now to try and pick up that KTM C16 in that heavy gravel. We'll quickly pop back down to Simon Crayford in pit lane, who's got Monster Energy Yamaha bus by Amerigali for company. Down to you first.
I have. Mayo, before we talk about here in Motegi, can you give us your thoughts on last week's race? The slight error from Mark that had a big knock-on effect, especially for your rider and championship points. Can you give us your thoughts on that?
In the end, it was really an accident, race accident. It was probably in the wrong place in the wrong moment, and it was a pity because the pace shown during the practices were super good, and honestly, I do believe that we should finish on the podium. And yeah, we lost a big chance, but we have to take as it is and think about Motegi.
So, talking about Motegi, can you give the listeners an idea what sort of things you can gain out there in FP3 now, especially now that you can't move up, you know, qualifying-wise, get in? Qualifying-wise, get into Q1 or Q2, I guess just working on settings, or
yeah, it's the first session of the wet, and we're preparing the bike. Luckily, they both have a good feeling. They had a good start, good run. Now it was just Fabio, especially looking for a bit more support in front. But in general, he's feeling very well, and even on the dry. Yesterday, as everybody, anyway, we tried to prepare the race in case it will be dry. We put together good information, good lap time. I know that he really pushed hard, and he was complaining about no more margin, but we all know that somehow we will find it. It's just a pity about Franco, because I think he's the best FP1 ever this season, and he deserves to be in He's been unlucky because when he tried time attack on 2 laps, he got yellow flag in both laps. Otherwise, he could be much in front, and that was really good for us. But it's like that.
Mayo, great to see Frankie making some progress. Good luck. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Mark Rangali, thanks to Simon Crayford. Yeah, you get the impression it might need to be another lion performance in tomorrow's Japanese Grand Prix here for Fabio Quartararo. He was a big underdog, wasn't he, against the armada of Ducatis in the Red Bull Ring in Austria, and he still fought his way to a stunning Second place, we just saw that, didn't we, on screens? A new face, the new HRC president, Koji Watanabe. Well, he takes over at HRC in some of the darkest days the Japanese superpower is having right now. No podium in the last 14 races, extending the worst run in terms of no podiums for HRC, the worst run they've had in the Premier Class since they returned in 1982. What a job Koji Watanabe has in his hands then. He'll be mighty relieved to see Marc Marquez back in the fold after his latest injury layoff. He'll be relieved as well in these wet conditions to see Marquez at the top of the pile. It's been an infrequent sight this year, or over the last couple of years, hasn't it, to see a Repsol Honda in P1. But Koji Watanabe, is he the man that can help steer Honda back to dominance in this MotoGP World Championship? A lot of senior management here from Yamaha, from Honda and Suzuki.
Yeah, of course, it's been a difficult last few races for Marc Marquez's teammate Pol Espargaro, although it was probably his best day on the bike for a good couple of months for Pol Espargaro. He's not been higher than 14th in a Grand Prix since all the way back at the French Grand Prix when he was back in 11th place, and hasn't really been inside the top 8 since that dramatic start of the season. In fact, he's now right on cue, gone down, so the commentator's curse still striking for Pol Espargaro, who's gone down there through turn 8. Bike's still on the racetrack as the marshals try and move that out of the way, and he's left quite a bit of mud on the circuit there as well, so the marshals try and move that out of the way, and he's left quite a bit of mud on the circuit there as well, so a bit of a clean-up operation required there as Pol Espargaro stomps away from his Repsol Honda. 7th yesterday was just the kind of big lift he needed because his morale was on the floor after a horrendous weekend in Aragon. Partnered by the current Moto2 World Championship leader Augusto Fernandez. Of Alex Rins, of course, is joining Taka Nakagami within the LCR squad. Fabio Quartararo then joining the rest of the field in pit lane. Would imagine, given that it's going to be a quick sweep of the track, that this shouldn't be too long a delay. So they're in Repsol Honda machine, being pulled out of harm's way by the marshals, quickly on the scene as they always are. Great to see, despite these very unpleasant weather conditions here in Japan. Some fans have braved the elements, of course, desperate to see the best rise in the world for the first time in 3 long years. Well, we've got this little bit of a lull in proceedings while the debris cleared up for the incident involving Pol Espargaro at turn 8. The Spaniard was able to be quick on his feet and walk away. We'll get a quick tech update from our man Simon down in pit lane. Down to you, Simon.
Yeah, just to let you and the listeners know what I see this session is, it's quite interesting. For example, Marc has 2 wet
by Pol Espargaro's crashed Repsol Honda. There's Enea Bastianini. What a race it was for him in Aragon 6 days ago. That last lap thriller, gaining instant revenge, didn't he, on Pecco Bagnaia after his last lap defeat to his fellow Italian in Misano. There is Pol Espargaro on the back of the Scooter, then getting a ride back to pit lane. Pol Espargaro was 15th when he dumped that Repsol Honda at turn number 8.
Yeah, great job by the marshals as always. It's one of the features that we always look forward to, isn't it, of this Japanese Grand Prix, to see what kind of show they have for us on a Sunday morning as the medical directors of the safety car all head out to inspect the track. So we hope to see some exciting and innovative footage once again from our Japanese marshals tomorrow.
Crikey, I remember that warm-up
Yes.
display 3 or 4 years ago. Myself and Steve Day just could not keep a straight face. We were giggling. We'd only just about stopped the giggles by the time the Moto3 race started on that day. Great show as always. And as we said, you've got to be a brave soul to brave.
the other evening when there was a fire in the garage next door. Your crew of guys is already very popular in the paddock, very professional, friendly, and very good at their job. But to help like they did, you must be really proud.
I'm very proud. I didn't have to tell them anything. They did by themselves. And I know this special team, I find out it as soon as I arrived in Qatar this season. So I'm really proud to be part of it.
So it's going to get noisy, but I'm hoping while we've got you, you can talk through a couple of other things. Alex Rins, his form this year has been really impressive. Actually, we've got some headphones now for Livio, so so he can hear me. Alex's form's been so impressive this year. Can you give us your thoughts on that?
And the beautiful thing is that he is really fast more or less everywhere, but unfortunately results since the beginning of the season where he started very well, we are struggling to get it. And a lot of, I don't like to say that luck because I believe that sure this season many things happened that didn't allow us to get what I think Alex deserved. The speed is there, we have a few minutes to go, and as I said yesterday, he was super fast since the beginning, then unfortunately at the end he got red flag, yellow flag, and he at the end this morning he's struggling a little bit with the wet, but sure the result is
Marquez baru masuk dia udah melesat.
not exactly
Semalam kualifikasi.
Last thing is
Belum.
Ini apa?
Besok.
Sunasan. Can you tell us his
Lagi.
goal here this weekend?
Latihan
well,
silat.
Oh, latihan.
P2.
Kind of present to him and to the test team that has done a great job in these few years.
Oh, nyari cepat.
Unfortunately, John is not here, so we asked him to replace John instead of being a white card. And anyway, the test team is here. They are helping him anyway. And yeah, it's a kind of present for the job he's done. We don't expect any performance to be particularly fast. They just need to have fun on the bike.